Yeah. Um, my name is Umar Stanley, and today I'll be, discussing a little bit of the project that I've been working in the last 6 months thereabout at the Royal Netherlands. So I'll, start by, just giving a little overview of the context of this very work. As we know, the benthic environment play a very key role when it comes to coastal ecosystem functioning. So acting as a very important biochemical nutrient, um, carbon, nitrogen, and the rest. So they provide this source of nutrient to the water column. A very big part of this coupling between the as well as the coastal waters are like the benthic autotroph, which basically are like the primary basically are like the primary producers in the benthic environment. So next slide. The these benthic autotrophs, they contribute as much as about 50% of the data occurs within the shallow marine systems, of which the microphytoplankton very dominant role in that, being as one of the most abundant of them. So they inhabit the surface layer of the sediment, and through some of their behaviors, such as the diurnal migration, to respond to light regime, and they modulate some processes that operate within the sediment. The next slide. So I got, after going through this article published in 2018 on the Frontier of Marine Science, where they highlighted SVs when it comes to a fully realized benthic ecosystem models. They mention of the fact that the biological representation of some in most state-of-the-art model then wasn't really up to about. So the next slide. So traditionally, the ecosystem modeling, that really follow these two different approach. On one end of them are what we call the early genetic model. These are models that basically try to resolve, say, carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and the like, without much input processes in full detail. While on the other end of the spectrums are more of the benthic biological model, which basically what they do is like they are more with coarse resolution when it comes to the vertical distributions of the nitrogen, carbon, and the rest. So the next slide. So of late, have been called for like a unified approach, to that, because technically it's been very difficult to to harmonize these two ends of the model. But some of late there has been successful implementation of that O3M model, was published in 2011. One of the models that really fully integrate these two processes together in fine details without compromising them. Next slide. So about there remain some issues that exist when it comes to a fully ecosystem. As we know, the biology play a very key role when it comes to some process there, but our understanding of the biology with the sophisticated mechanisms, haven't really realized when it comes to this benthic model. So how do we improve on this biological component, sacrificing much of the geochemical process element? And more importantly, if we include these biological processes and the microphytobentons, what are the effect of that, the implication of that on, say, the nitrogen and phosphorus dynamics within the sediment? And lastly, the role of tide, has not been, given so much attention when it comes to this. So these were questions that I, took upon myself to work on. The next slide. So I've been models for the last couple of slides, but I'm sure you probably seen a lot of models today, my colleagues. But today, what are we showing? Going to move toward a kind of branch of models where we are more mathematical in nature, more deterministic, and have some components that are quite mechanistic and could be run in a kind of like a dynamic fashion or in a stationary. Next slide. So the complexity of the stuff that I've been working on in the last 6 months to thereabout This is just a conceptual representation of the carbon and the nitrogen dynamic in the sediment. So within our model, we have about 15 state variables, of which we took time to distinguish between the organic matter in terms of their reactivity. So we have like a fast decaying organic matter as well as a slow decaying organic matter. And also for the microphytobenthos, we made some clear on the carbon content within the cell as well as the nitrogen content within the cell. So I'm not going to go into details in all of the many interaction slides, but I will just highlight some very key process that play, and that's what we done so far from what is currently on in models in the literature. So the next slide. The next slide. So classically, matter in the sediment follows the sequential pattern where at the surface of the sediment, where there's enough abundant oxygen is being used to mineralize the organic matter, and when the oxygen is being depleted, the next is the nitrate, which is used as an organic oxidant, and then for being depleted and there's the organic matter and see within the system other lesser energetically favored oxidants, manganese, the iron, and the sulfate. So we'll capture all of this sequence of these chemical reactions, into some nice mathematical formulation, and that's what I show here in this base of this slide, where we could say, for example, the denitrification is as a function of a rate parameter and on temperature, as well as the nitrogen concentration that is present within the sediment and could be inhibited when oxygen is present within the sediment. So similar thing can be found for other processes such as the mineralization and the oxide mineralization and the rest. The next slide. So we added a new feature for most in our model for the phosphorus cycle, where basically it follows the same pattern of the mineral earlier. And the only difference here is we just added in a stoichiometric relationship between phosphorus and carbon. So, and because the dynamics of phosphorus within the sediment is quite complex, we try as much as possible to mimic such complexity within our model. The surface of the sediment, where the oxygen is abundant, the dissolving organic phosphorus can be oxidized to form ion bound, and depending on the chemical state and the equilibrium state, could be relieved back to the sediment as through dissorption reaction and some calcium bound phosphorus. So all of those intricate chemical reactions were captured within our model. So we took a mechanistic approach to the photosynthesis, given the dynamic nature that is being faced with us, in the intertidal system. We try to follow in as much as possible what really goes on within the cellular compartment of the microphytobenthos. So we followed truly the photosynthesis. I'm not going to go into the inner details of that much. Mind that we follow through this state transition where there's the light capturing of the microphytobenthos was nicely done within our model. Microphytobenthos, we made an unbalanced growth formulation where basically the unbalanced growth simply means there will be some period of time where the sediment or where the microphytobenthos growth is quite decoupled or uncoupled from the nutrient uptake, and that is what we nicely captured here, where we could basically say the growth of the light assimilatory capacity as the amount of DIC uptake within the system and in nitrogen. On the next slide. Okay, so we added in tide in our model, and basically what we did with tide there was a very simple switch function where we could say there will be some fraction of time when the sediment is being covered with water, and there will be some fraction of time when it's being exposed, and that is what we really did here in our model. Next slide. So all in all, we have about 15 state variables in our model, as you can see below, and we model 20 centimeter in depth with degree size increasing about from 0. The surface, increasing down to the base of the sediment. So at the top layer of the sediment, we bounded our model with, and we took into account the porosity and the advection and other transport terms within the model. Next slide. So all in all, we made about 4 scenario relations. For the scenario 1, we did not consider microphytobenthos. We only just considered the other biogeochemical state variables. For the scenario 2, we did a more kind of like a dynamic run in terms of adding as well as the light component in there. And for scenario in the tide to the microphytobenthos scenario of scenario 2. And then for the fourth one, we did not add any microphytobenthos, only just the tide in order to isolate the effect of this tide. So just before I get into the result proper, just for some additional purpose, the period when the sediment, is being covered, when the sediment is being, exposed to sunshine, white area, and then some period of time when there's no light, like the night, mentioned with this very gray area. And then there will be some period of time scenario. The sediment is being inundated with water, covered with water. We did not all show that with this blue ribbon here. So we look of some of the state variables in our model, and what you could see from here is just a classic early genetic profile where at the surface of the sediment there was a lot of oxygen concentration, and that decreases sharply up to about 1 centimeter, below which it becomes 0, and the oxygen concentration was 0 all through the depth from that layer. That has a very big role to play in terms of the oxygen follow such similar pattern. But what is more obvious from this very scenario microphytobenthos, indicated by by this green and red, has a big role to play when it comes to the amount of ammonium present in the system, and also like a correlative and relationship when these microphytobenthos have been included on the rate of denitrification, shown by this green line. Also similarly for the dissolved inorganic phosphorus, the presence of microphytobenthos resulted to very high concentration at the top layer of the sediment sharply down the sediment depth. With this high DIP concentration result to the high absorption of the DIC to form ion-bound phosphorus of the sediment, and that is being shown at the last and the bottom of this slide. Also looked at the spatiotemporal distribution of some key state variables within our model. And what you can find here is that when we included microphytobenthos in our model, we observed this day-night pattern, as a result of these microphytobenthos, as a result of the light pulsing. And what you could see, reproduction rate, was really high and became, absolutely 0 during the night. And that's as a result of the uptake that was really high, uptake of nitrogen or uptake of nutrient in general compared to the night. All of that, result to the high quality of organic matter, that was up to almost high during the day compared to the night, signified by the C/N ratio. But when we added in tide in our model, what you could find there is that the with water resulted to a reduction in the growth primary production rate. That is what you see here with this little the break of the micro variation that has been captured clearly with our model, and this results to some of the turbidity in light as a result of the water covering the sediment. The next slide. To this microphytobenthos, the presence of microphytobenthos and the light force also have a role to play when it comes to the oxic mineralization and some other. As you can see, the diurnal pattern is being mimicked here with a high oxic mineralization rate during the day compared to the night. Similar pattern can be found as well as for the denitrification rate. But in contrast, that of the anoxic mineralization was really high during the night compared to modify the processes a bit. When the sediment is here to see is that there's a reduction in the oxic zone when the sediment is covered with water during the day, and that has a disproportionate or proportional impact on the anoxic mineralization of the time. So we analyzed a bunch of other models. Go to the next slide. And then we synthesized all of that to form what we call a mass budget, which is basically we saying that we wanted to balance what goes in and out of the compartment. So and that is what is being shown in this comparison between a microphytobenthos colonized sediment that is not colonized by it. And what you could find visually from this very slide is that the microphytobenthos on the sediment result to this internal loop around the sediment, and this interaction is as a result of some of the, recycling component of this microphytobenthos being present within the sediment. And basically because of the numbers, and you look at the numeric itself, you find that the fluxes are almost, similar, just for a little further dive. The presence of the microphytobenthos resulted to a little loss compared to that of for the non-colonized sediment. But the presence of this microphytobenthos resulted to a greater denitrification compared to that of the non-MBP colonized sediment that has been, recently been gaining ground in terms of experimental studies and observational studies. The next slide. There. Yeah. Okay. So the presence of this microphytobenthos, result to this diurnal pattern that we've seen from some of our results, or in some cases the tidally enhanced pattern. Some of the results I've shown is that there seems to be a less nitrogen losses when microphytobenthos been present in the scenario 2 compared to the scenario 3, rather compared to the scenario 4. And similar phosphorus the phosphorus dynamics where P absorption results to kind of like a retention of the phosphorus, and our mass budget really highlighted some of the internal recycling within the system where microphytobenthos is being included. The next slide. So as I mentioned,
we'll have to leave it there. I'm sorry, you've gone way over time now. I'm sorry, we'll have to leave it there. Yeah.
I just conclude. Okay, so all in all, we developed in kind of a new model that could complete some of these complexities within the sediment, and we've illustrated the role that being played by these microphytobenthos. We also show that the light and the tide could display some very complex, being able to achieve some of that. Yet there's further work to be done by our models. We think it will validate it with some actual feed data to identify where the uncertainty lies within our model. But all in all, I think for what we've done so far, I think the models have been able to do a good job. Big thank you to my supervisor, who's been really incredible during this period, taking the time to teach me the art and the science of modeling, and also for the wonderful colleagues at NEOS and the IMBRC community. So thank you for your attention. I look forward for your questions.